In the midst of all of that turmoil, there was some good news for Michael Jackson when he heard that Elizabeth Taylor and her husband, Larry Frankenski, would be joining him in Singapore. His next tour stop to lend their emotional support and celebrate his 35th birthday with him. Many people have wondered about Michael's relationship with Elizabeth. Think it was an unlikely friendship. However, they actually have a great deal in common and much more than just having been child stars. Like Elizabeth, Michael has known loneliness. He has lived in fear of not being able to fully love and of not having love returned. Michael once explained to me that he and Elizabeth first met in the early 1980s, out of the blue. He had sent her a dozen tickets to one of his Los Angeles concerts at Dodger Stadium. I didn't know it, but it was her birthday, February 27th, Michael recalled. I thought I was giving her great seats because they're in a VIP box. But when Elizabeth got there, she became very angry because the seats were so far away from the stage and she left upset. The whole time I was performing, I was thinking, oh my god, Elizabeth Taylor is watching me. Elizabeth Taylor is watching me, but she wasn't even there. When I got off stage, they told me she had gone home mad. The next day I called her and I cried because I felt so awful. According to Michael's memory, Elizabeth was cordial, but direct. Michael, she said, a major star such as myself never sits in the cheap seats. After that, we talked on the phone every day on every stop of my tour, Michael said, and I thought, wow, doesn't she have other things to do? After all, she's Elizabeth Taylor. At the end of the tour, I asked her if I could come by for tea. She said, yes, I brought Bubbles along. She didn't mind. When asked, Michael would always say that no one is a better, more understanding friend than Elizabeth Taylor. She can deal with any problem. Nothing shocks her, and she is always available with a warm hug and understanding ear because she is also extraordinarily charismatic as it's become swept away by Elizabeth. Just as it's easy to be swept away by Michael. The two became so fascinated with another so quickly that in 1989, Elizabeth toyed with the idea of moving Michael into her home so that they could spend all their waking hours together. At the time, Michael was about to move out of his family home in Encino and was considering buying Neverland. But why would you need all that space when you and I can live together in my home? Elizabeth suggested, according to what Michael told me. Imagine the fun we'll have. Maybe we'll even get married. She was probably being fatuous. She, no doubt, realized that the ever so secretive Michael was troubled and in need of love and acceptance. Maybe she also sensed that he was ashamed of his inability at that time to truly connect with and be intimate with anyone, male or female. But will they have to have? An alarmed Michael wanted to know. Oh, of course not, you silly boy. Michael told him, calculating in her inevitable way. Why do you know any married couples who have? Michael considered her position. In the end, he said, I thought that might be taking things too far. Instead, Michael bought Neverland, but he and Elizabeth remained close friends. And in fact, Elizabeth married her seventh husband, Larry Forksky, under a gazebo in Neverland in 1991, amidst swans, doves, and at least one giraffe in $1 million ceremony. It speaks well of Elizabeth that she was so vociferous in her defense of Michael, especially since it wasn't a popular stance. Such public support was certainly not forthcoming in the same degree from his other high profile friends, such as Diana Ross, Jackie Onassis, or Liza Minnelli. In 1993, Michael sent Jackie an extravagant gift, perhaps trying to When her over recalled Stephen Stiles, who was a close friend of John F. Kennedy Jr.'s. Michael was pushing for a deeper relationship, I think, but you just didn't do that with Jackie. She was the one to set the boundaries. One day my phone rang, it was John. You'll never guess what's going on around here, he said. My mother is going to be tied. When he explained to me that a big screen TV would be delivered to Jackie's apartment building from Michael, it was so large they couldn't even get in the front door of the lobby. It was just out in the middle of the sidewalk on Fifth Avenue with a giant pink bow on it, and it said for Jackie, the most wonderful woman in the world. A big crowd gathered, hoping that the most wonderful woman in the world would come down and claim her prize. My mother is having a fit about it, John said, laughing. They finally got it up to her apartment, but they had to disassemble much of it just to get in the lobby. Michael is one of my best friends in the world, Elizabeth Taylor told a reporter on the plane to Singapore. She and Larry Forninsky took the trip surrounded by a coterie of press people. I can think of anything worse a human being could go through than what he's going through now, she observed. He's a very sensitive, vulnerable, shy person. I believe that he will be vindicated. When asked about the reason for such allegations, Elizabeth came right. Extortion, she claimed with a shrill voice. I think it's clear. Well, isn't it? She demanded, wanting the writer to agree with her. On arrival, Elizabeth and Larry checked into the same hotel in which Michael was staying, the exquisite Raffles. As soon as she checked in, she rushed to her friend's room. When Michael answered the door, he collapsed into her arms in a heap. Oh, there, you poor thing, she said, patting him on the back. I'm here now. Elizabeth is here. Michael did manage a show that night, August 29th, his birthday, at the end. 40 dozen people sang happy birthday to him. Later, Elizabeth hosted a small party for him in his suite. The next up was Taiwan, which is where Joe, Catherine, and some of the Jackson boys had decided to join Michael. Just what I need, he told Elizabeth according to a witness. What did what do they have to come? They are your family, Michael, she said. You just put up with them. My father, Michael said, burying his face in his hands. I can't even stand to be in the same room with that man. Neither can I, dear, Elizabeth said, managing his back sympathetically. When he finally got to the Tenawon, Michael simply refused to see his visiting family members. Bob Jones, his longtime publicist, had been assigned the task of keeping them from him. Catherine was hurt. Why does Elizabeth Taylor get to see him anytime she wants, she complained, but I have to make an appointment to see him for 5 minutes. Dealing with the allegation against Michael was hard on Catherine. It affected her blood pressure, and the family was worried about her. It was even tougher on her when she realized that she couldn't see him, couldn't comfort him. Right? She and the family, you know, she and the family members felt isolated in the hotel, wondering when they would ever have a private audience with the King of Pop later. Jermaine would complain bitterly about it on Larry King Live. Michael's handlers didn't want us to get at him, he said. As his family waited to see him, Michael had such lunch with Elizabeth Taylor. Holding a messy slice of carrot cake with frosting in her hand, she urged him to eat it. He had lost 6 pounds since the second leg of the tour began. Just a short while ago in a bone dog. Take this, she insisted. Michael sneered at the cake. Seemed repulsed by the sound of it. No, take it away, he said, begging of her. Michael, if you don't eat this cake, I swear to God, I will call your family in here and let them have a go at you, she warned. And you know I'll do it too. Michael laughed. Give me that goddamn cake, he said, scooping out her hands. He wolfed it down. Good boy, she exclaimed with delight. Good boy. The next day, Michael gave in and hosted a luncheon for Catherine, Joseph, and the rest of his visiting family. Mostly, he sat in the corner quietly. Before the luncheon was over, though, Jermaine approached him about participating in an upcoming Jackson family television program. No longer in a position to avoid the question, he agreed. By the fall of 1993, as the legal maneuvers continued, Michael was in worse shape than ever, physically and emotionally. He was devastated by an interview with Evan and Jordan, along neither was identified by name. I imagine Michael Jackson is pretty scared right now, really scared, the kid was quoted as having said, as he should be, because what he did to me is a really bad thing. Michael hasn't called me or anything. During Dave Schwartz decided to align with Evan against Michael. It is said by their friends that June feared reprisals from Evan if she continued to oppose them. She thought it was possible that if Michael was found guilty, Evan might then accuse her of neglect. Meanwhile, her lawyer, Michael Freeman, quit, saying that he was uncomfortable with her decision and had a bad feeling about Evan, whom he later described as not a genuine person. Then, surprisingly, Evan's lawyer, Barry Rothman, reassigned from the case too, and was replaced by civil attorney Larry Feldman. So it was on September 14th, 1993, Evan Chandler filed a civil suit against Michael for the of his son. It was effectively an insurance policy should the criminal system not work for him. Plus, it was a sure way to see that Michael paid in financial terms for what Evans said he had done to Jordan. Jordan will be represented in the legal action by attorney Feldman, who said at the time Michael was in love with the boy. It was a general soft, caring, warm, sweet relationship. Larry also believed his client when told that the relationship was, thought the lawsuit. Though the lawsuit seemed to double the trouble for Michael, some of his advisors hoped it might actually provide a catalyst to end the matter if the lawsuit could be settled with money. They reasoned the police investigation might go away as well. Though a trial for the civil case was set for March 22nd, 1994, there is still hope that a deal could be Parker before that time. There's a sense that Evan Chandler could accept money from Michael, and with good reason. They had tried to negotiate a deal with him, albeit unsuccessfully, when Evan originally asked for $20 million before he went to the authorities. The problem, though, is that it was well known within Michael's camp that he would never pay Evan a dime. Michael still maintained his innocence in the matter and was certain that any cash settlement would suggest otherwise. He wasn't going to do it, not without a fight. However, it was decided, as one advisor put it, to cross the bridge when we come to it. Though some secretly felt the matter might actually be settled, given a lot of time and a lot of cash, others in the Jackson camp weren't as optimistic. According to a person familiar with the case, Evan, Elizabeth telephoned Michael to tell him that things do not look good back here, she said. You gotta take action. Michael asked for details, telling her not to hold anything back. She said, all hell is breaking loose. Recalled one of Michael's representatives. Miss Taylor and I are on speakerphone with Michael. Michael was crying, asking, what should I do? What can I do? She became impatient. Michael, you mustn't substitute my judgment for your own, she said. You need to stop freaking out. You need to take charge of your life. In August 1994, Michael would tell me, I swear you, I didn't know how bad things were. If I had known, maybe things would have been handled differently. It does seem, in retrospect, that he knew more than he said he did was actually just in a state of denial about it. Elizabeth told them that, in her view, no one was handling matters for him in the States in a way that would benefit him. I think they need to be kicking A, and they're not, she said. Then you need to recount the advisor. Then you need to be the one kicking A, Elizabeth, Michael said. At that, I cringed, recounted the advisor. All we needed to make things worse was Elizabeth Taylor handling the defense. Much to my chagrin, that of others on Michael's team, Miss Taylor offered to hold strategy meetings at her home 2 or 3 times a week, and then report back to Michael what had been said and by whom. The next few weeks, Elizabeth Taylor hosted many conferences at her house with about 10 of Michael's team and was often critical of those handling Michael's public relations, though not so much his legal defense. Some of Michael's team did not want to attend Elizabeth Taylor's summits, protesting that for a movie star to have such control over his career was ridiculous. They dubbed her Queen of the Defense. In truth, she wasn't spearheading any legal tactics as much as providing a forum for attorneys, publicists, and her strategists to brainstorm so she could then keep Michael apprised of their viewpoints. Of course, some of Michael's staff did not wish to attend Elizabeth's meetings for fear of a negative report being sent back to the boss. During one meeting, Elizabeth said, I'm afraid he will never sell another record again if we can't get this goddamn ridiculous straightened out. I think we have to make sure there's something left for Michael after this is resolved. He just might be in jail after this goddamn ridiculousness is resolved, muttered one of Michael's advisors. Elizabeth looked down and scribbled in her legal pad. She didn't look back at the advisor. I just made a note to remember to tell Michael what you said, she told him. He lowered his head, dully testus. Anthony Pelicano simply refused to attend the Taylor meetings. What, are you kidding me? He asked when while he was in prison. I'm busy. I'm out here working for Michael. I don't have time for tea with movie stars. Elizabeth was unhappy with Anthony anyway. He is not a team player, she said. We can't keep track of him. He does his own thing on his own way, and we don't know what he's thinking. I don't like it. He makes me nervous. During another one of her home meetings, Elizabeth, Sandy Gallen, Michael's manager at the time, and Howard Wesman telephoned Michael overseas to discuss the matter of Anthony. According to a witness, all three were on speakerphone talking to Michael. Look, Mike, maybe he has to go, Howard said Pelicano. I like the guy, but I'm not sure about him anymore. I think so too, Elizabeth concurred. Absolutely. Well, I have my run-ins with him too, Michael admitted. He sounded lethargic, drugged. He said that while he admired Anthony, he felt that his idea to present Wade Robinson and Brett Barnes to the public wasn't a good one. He felt the investigators should have checked with him first before exploiting the youngsters. And it really me off that guy tries to tell me what to do, Michael said, like I work for him instead of the other way around. And also, he concluded, I think he scares the public. He's that intimidating. John Braga, now he's a good spokesman. Indeed, after having him let go so unceremoniously, Michael had reluctantly asked John to return to the fold. He knew he could always count on him, and of course he was right. Brecco was back. and loyal as ever. After that conversation, Michael wrote a detailed memo to Howard Westman explaining why he believed he and John should take over as his spokesman. He told them that he trusted them. They were believable and had the respect of the legal profession. Unlike Anthony Pellicano, who he now felt was perceived as being a man on edge, a rebel, if Anthony worked for Motown, Michael observed, he'd be someone Barry would keep behind the scenes. Having him out there speaking for me now is almost like having Joseph out there. He's intimidating right now. We don't need that.